Okay, welcome everyone to this continuation of what are my favorite theorems. As usual, the emphasis is on my, so a really biased point of view. In any case, today I want to talk about really a gem of modern mathematics, which is called Euler's polyhedron formula, or Euler characteristic, or whatever. It comes in various names and various flavors. It is a really easy observation. And in some sense, the most surprising part about it will be, well, that nobody has discovered this before. So as you will see, the Greeks could have discovered this 2000, let's say 2000 years before, but nobody actually ever did. And this is one of these rare breakthroughs in mathematics and science and whatever, where you just have a very easy idea, very easy observation. Nobody has ever made this observation before, and you can easily generalize and go on from there. It's really beautiful. It's really amazing. So let's just jump right into it. It's a very easy setup, or as I said, you can generalize it, but let's do the very easy part of it. So the visually appealing part. So let's say I have a polyhedron. So here's a polyhedron, the soccer ball. I don't want to call it a football. Depending where you are in the world, you might call it a football. I don't want to call it a football because some people might think of football having a slightly different shape. It doesn't matter topologically speaking, but I still want this picture. You will see in a second why. Anyway, I'm thinking about polyhedra, and whenever I think about a polyhedron, let's say I have so this is a very easy polyhedron, and the polyhedron I want to think about, they have three types of data I would like to count. They have vertices. So here the orange thing is a vertex of a polyhedron, and so like this one here, or this thing here, these are vertices. And I would like to count them, and I call them V. Polyhedron also have edges. Here's one, for example. Here's one. So here's one, blue one. And again, I want to count them, and I call them E. And you wouldn't be, well, obviously also polyhedron have faces. So here's a face. Maybe here's a face. And here's a face. This is not really visible. So let me bash. Here's a face. And I only want to take a polyhedron like the soccer ball, and I would like to do a count. I want to count V, I want to count E, and I want to count F. Very easy. V, E, and F. And I end up with those numbers. So V is 44, E is 66. I mean, that's something you could, if you have a soccer ball at home, you can just do the count. Otherwise, you kind of can believe me right now. It's not so hard, right? You just count. It's a finite, a very finite counting problem. So you get 44, 66, and 24. Well, seems to be pretty random numbers. And what Euler then did, well, certainly he didn't count vertices, edges, and faces of a soccer ball, but basically what he did is he said, okay, maybe those numbers look pretty random, and the sum is also pretty random. But what isn't random is if you take the kind of the alternating sum. So you take V minus E plus F. And it turns out that this is 2. This is kind of the crucial formula you would like to keep in mind through the rest of the video. So V minus E plus F, the alternating sum, V minus E plus F. Okay, if you do the count for the soccer ball and you get 2, well, okay, you get 2, right? 2 is not a really special number. You could have gotten -2 or 0 or who knows. So if you just do the count for one polyhedron like the soccer ball, okay, you will get something, right? But Euler's observation is then that you always kind of get 2. So what he really did is he was of course not counting faces, edges, and vertices of a soccer ball. He did the count for the platonic solids. So here are the platonic solids. I will show you a video in a second. And they were known to the Greeks for, it's a little bit of a discussion who discovered them. or who showed actually that there are no other platonic solids, well, which is kind of a strange thing. So regular polytopes. But roughly 2,000 years ago, 2,000 years before Euler, so something like, let's say, 500 years BC. It doesn't matter so much. It doesn't really matter so much. They were well known for a long time and studied by many civilizations and rediscovered and whatever. But nobody before Euler ever did the count. Like, take the tetrahedron. The tetrahedron is extremely easy. It has obviously 4 vertices. They are not really hard to find. Here's one. It's pyramid, right? Here's one. Here's one. It's a pyramid with a triangle as its base. So you have 4 vertices. So V is 4. Also, the edges are not really hard to count. I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 in the back, and 6. So E is 6, and faces are basically they're trivial to count, and we get 4 of them. And again, the alternating sum is, what a surprise, 2. And okay, now you have counted 2 different alternating sums of V minus E plus F for 2 different polyhedra, for 2 pretty different polyhedra in some sense, and you get the same number. So then you should, well, you should continue counting, because you might be up to something. And that's what Euler did. So you can do the same for the cube, for the octahedron, for the dodecahedron, or for the isocahedron, and you always get the same result. It's always V minus E plus F equals 2. So here, for example, is a dodecahedron. It's made of pentagons. As you can see, here's a pentagon in the front. And each pentagon, sorry, so we have 12 of these pentagons. It's basically a 12-sided dice. Here you go. And if you do the count again, you have 20 vertices and 30 edges. And that's easy to see, actually. So you have a pentagon, and you know you have 12 of them. And each pentagon, obviously, let's say edges. You want to count edges. Each pentagon, by definition, it's a pentagon. So it has 5 edges. So you have 12 faces and 5 edges. So it seems like you get 5 times 12. You have 12 faces, and each one of them has 5 edges. So it seems like you get 5 times 12 edges, which would be 60. But as you can see, one edge is already adjacent to 2, is always adjacent to 2 faces, so you divide by 2, so you get 30 edges. Similarly, you can count the vertices. Each pentagon itself has, of course, 5 vertices, but as you can see, each vertex is adjacent to 3 pentagons, so you take 60 and divide it by 3, and you get 20. And you get, again, 20 V minus E plus F equals 2. You can do the count for the isocahedron. That's a 20-sided dice if you like to play something like D&D. You know those things. 20-sided dice. Each face is a triangle. The triangles meet, 5 triangles meet at one point, and so on and so on. But you do the count, you get 2. Same for the octahedron. The octahedron is this, this double pyramid thing. So a pyramid on top and you pyramid on the bottom. Same for the tetrahedron that I already showed you. It's again V minus E plus F equals 2, and same for the cube. And that's what Euler did. He counted those numbers for the regular polytopes, the platonic solids, and he discovered that this number is always fixed, which is amazing. Let me say it again. It's an amazing discovery, because, I mean, those polytopes were around for 2,000 years, and nobody ever did this. It's a trivial counting. You count vertices, edges, and faces of an object that you might have in front of you. It's ridiculously easy, and nobody has ever discovered that. And it's really amazing. It was one of these breakthroughs in mathematics. So as I said, Euler did this count for all those regular, for those platonic solids and a lot of other regular polytopes. Not quite sure whether he really did the count for the analog of the soccer ball, but maybe he did. Anyway, whatever you do, whatever he did is in the end he discovered this formula. So vertices minus edges plus faces always seems to be a fixed number, while the numbers v, e, and f, they might vary a lot, but the alternating sum is always fixed, which is a very surprising observation. And again, one of the main points is nobody has ever done that before, although those things were around for thousands of years. Maybe not thousands of years, but 2,000 years. So that's really one of the rare breakthroughs in mathematics. And it preceded topology by something like 200 years, so modern versions of topology. So really beautiful. And the idea to prove it is due to Cauchy. So, and it works basically like this. It's a graph argument. And I will explain in a second why it's a graph argument and not really a polyhedron argument. There's one confusing point you will always get for graphs. You will always get v minus e plus f equals 1. I will also explain in a second why. But anyway, so you'll always get v minus e plus f equals 1. So why is this the graph? Well, this is the graph for the dodecahedron. How is that the dodecahedron? Well, you should think that here, actually, my background is the sphere. So this lives on the sphere, and I've just disturbed, so the two-dimensional sphere, and I've just disturbed, maybe I should call it S2, right? And I've just disturbed the polyhedron a little bit, such that the outside face, this is this one here, goes all the way around the sphere, okay? And this outside face is usually not counted. That's why you get 1 and not 2. So secretly there's another face. But anyway, what Cauchy proposed is to do exactly the same count for those graphs. So here are faces, for example. This would be an edge here. So this is an E, and here's another edge, whatever. And you have, of course, the vertices. Here's a vertex V, and whatever. Here's a vertex V. And you do the same count for certain types of graphs. And the graphs you want are plane graphs. So plane graphs means exactly what you see below here. So these are graphs that are embedded in the plane. Be a bit careful. I'm not saying they are planar graphs, if you've heard that before. So planar graphs would be graphs that are embeddable in the plane. No, I want a graph with a fixed embedding, like a fixed form like I have down here, called plane graphs. Why do I want that? Well, I want to count faces, for example. And this only makes sense if my graph already lives in the plane, right? Okay, but for any plane graph, Cauchy says, okay, v minus e plus f equals 1. Same count, vertices minus edges plus faces equals 1. And each plane graph secretly lives on the sphere. So secretly, it is kind of a triangulation thing of a sphere. So secretly, it is a regular convex polytope. Not a regular polytope, it's a convex polytope. And the way Cauchy proved this is actually basically a reasonably easy induction argument, pretty brilliant. So what he did is, okay, he just said, okay, now let's say I know it for certain small graphs, right? You can make it, for example, induction on the number of vertices. You know that for them, well, if you have one vertex and nothing else, then the count, well, v is 1, e is 0, f is 0, then the count certainly works, right? Now you know it by induction for a certain type of graphs, like the dodecahedron graph here. And what he did is he just added now another vertex somewhere, like in the middle of this face here. So add another vertex here. And what will happen, and edges to connect it. And what will happen is, as you can see, I added a vertex, so v goes up by 1. I added 3 edges, so the number of edges goes up by 3. And now comes the crucial point, because I added those 3 edges, I divided the original face into smaller faces, and actually the number of faces got up by 2. So overall, the number got up by +1, +3, so the number is +2. But since we built in a sign here, they cancel exactly out and you haven't changed anything in the total arithmetic sum. And that's basically the proof. It's a very, very simple argument and a clear and very clean proof. And again, nobody has thought of that before, so it's just ridiculously simple, and it was missed by people for 2,000 years, which is really impressive. So the statement itself is then exactly what you think. Any spherical polyhedron, just means exactly what I just explained. Like it is a kind of a division of a sphere into faces, edges, and vertices. For any, right? So for any, not just for the soccer ball and the regular polyhedron, the platonic solids. For any, you have v minus e plus f equals 2. And that was the beginning of topology, because in the end, what you would like to do is to say that the Euler characteristic of the sphere is 2. It's kind of it's an invariant of the sphere. Whatever you do to the sphere, basically this invariant stays the same. So any triangulation, for example, of the sphere, if you count v minus e plus f, you will still get 2. But I really talk about any triangulation. So v might be huge. You might choose whatever, 1 million vertices and whatever, God knows how many edges and faces. But the alternating sum will always be 2. And the Cauchy's proof is exactly using the spherical projection, and you know what a stereographical projection, and you all know what that is because you all have seen maps before, maps of the Earth. So it's basically flattening the sphere. So you have the sphere, and you take out one point. So let's say you take out the North Pole, and you bend it open, and you get something flat, right? And anything that lives on the sphere, whatever, is then bended out into the plane, and that's where you exactly get those pictures, and then you make a counting argument for those pictures. This inductive argument by Cauchy. There's zillions of other proofs. Some people like to collect proofs of Euler's polyhedron theorem because they're quite nice and combinatorial in nature or whatever. But I just showed you one of them, which I think is reasonably nice and simple. And then let's finish by something funny. so Matt Parker, and I think 2007, started a petition to change the soccer signs in the UK. Because what is so funny about the soccer signs in the UK, so here you go. So Ewood Park is some whatever soccer stadium. It doesn't matter. So you will see along the street, you will see those soccer signs, and if you watch carefully, then you will see that the soccer ball is not the one I showed you before. So you have those nice hexagons. These were my nice hexagons here. So far, so good. But this one here has then pentagons. So you have black pentagons and white hexagons. That's kind of the classical appearance of those balls. Not on these signs, you have still white hexagons, but you also have, well, whatever, black, right? Do the count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You also have black pentagons. And so the reason you started this petition is that it's just wrong. You can't build a soccer ball out of just hexagons. It just doesn't work, and it's very easy to see why not by using Euler's polyhedron formula. And this is basically how it works, right? There are of course many ways to see it, but here's one. So you know that v minus e plus f equals 2, and you do exactly the count. You don't know how many faces you will need, so maybe your soccer ball will get really huge, and you might need a lot of hexagons. So let's just bf some variable. Well, okay, so here you have a face. It's a hexagon. Here you go, very easy. So each hexagon clearly has 6 edges. So it looks like E is 6 times F. Not quite, because as you can see here in this picture, each edge has two adjacent faces. So actually what it really is E is 3 times F. Okay? So that's what I do here. So this is E, 3 times F. And you do a similar count for the vertices. You can see it also in this picture here. Each vertex is adjacent to 3 hexagons. So it looks like you want to have V equals 6 times F, but you have to divide by 3. So V is actually 2 times F. And then you do the count, 2 times F plus 3 times F minus F. That looks like 0, but it should be 1. It should be 2. So this just can't work. Sorry, UK soccer science. And so, by the way, they never changed that. So they think geometry is not important enough to change those signs. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you next time.